A couple of months ago, when I read about Star Wars The Force Awakens, I thought there was going to be a real chance at progress when they had Finn featured prominently in most of the ads. Unfortunately, that was just another red herring. And it was sad that that was another red herring because when we look at the movie and see how Finn was portrayed, he was nothing more than another Sambo Negro stereotype. I mean, basically, they had this stormtrooper as the garbage man. And that's where I pose this question. Do black people either want to be the garbage man or the CEO? Because when I imagine black men in fantasy, I imagine them as the CEO. And I did that back in 2005 when I started writing The Temptation of John Haynes. When I wrote The Temptation of John Haynes, I made the John Haynes character the CEO. I wanted to show that a black man could be the leader of a corporation and that he could take on the evil forces of Lucifer by himself or with a partner like Easting. I wanted to show that a black man could be creative, resourceful, think on his feet, and do all the things that many of the white heroes we see in media could do. And I wanted to show the strength of black men's character, the intelligence of black men, and the integrity of black men with that character. And when I finally published the book in 2011, the book got lots of rave reviews and a lot of positive feedback from readers. A lot of readers went on to share that book, and they all, talked about how great it was. And we need more characters like John Haynes out here to show that black men can be portrayed in leadership roles in fantasy and science fiction because the only three main characters I've seen in science fiction and fantasy so far were Mantis in the 1990s, Blade from the 1990 movie Blade series, and Static from Static Shock. That was the only three African American male characters I have seen headline their own series, but I have not seen any after that. When I look at Finn, I truly see him as a setback because here was an opportunity to present a black man in a lead role, and here's what Disney and Lucasfilm did. They just gave a finger to the African American audience, and really, I believe that was a true slap in the face. You can put this image up here and make us think that this black man is going to be, a major part of this saga, and all we get is a fraidy cat coward who is a garbage man and a Sambo, pretty much. We don't get the strong, intelligent, leader class male that a lot of black kids have been wanting to see for years. And I think the only way we're going to get that type of leader class male is if we publish it ourselves, like I do with The Temptation of John Haynes and this year's John Haynes, The Man Who Rules the World. Now, John Haynes, The Man Who Rules the World is a sequel to The Temptation of John Haynes that I'm going to be publishing this year. And in this story, the John Haynes character is bringing all of the characters in the SJS Direct universe together to help him take on Lucifer and God Cassius, a malevolent despot who was out to take over the world. And this one is an action packed, epic adventure where we see a black man being the leader, we see him solving problems, we see him bringing people together, we see him being creative and resourceful. And this one, will present a strong image of black masculinity, black manhood, and, is a great story that I believe anyone could have no problem sharing with their tween and teen boys as an image of positive black manhood and positive black masculinity and a strong example of black manhood and black masculinity because I really, when I look at the assault that is being done on black manhood and black masculinity, we need more positive images of black men here, black men who are going to show that they're going to be leaders, organizers, problem solvers, men who can bring people together, men who can, unite people. And we see that prominently in John Haynes, The Man Who Rules the World. And we also see it for a part in The Temptation of John Haynes, where he makes efforts to move past many of his issues to do what is right for the African American community, and then later on, what is right for the East Indian character, and showing her an example of, Christ-like behavior. In The Temptation of John Haynes, I wanted to make every effort to present one of the most positive portrayals of African American men, one of the most balanced images of African American men, and one of the most humanized images of African American men. I understood how important it is to present these type of images of black men because we don't get them all the time. And the only way I believe we can get these type of images of African American men is if African Americans go out and make the effort to produce them ourselves. Because when I look at the media that's out here today, it's just sad to me when I see, an opportunity like this Star Wars, The Force Awakens, willfully squander an opportunity to bring African Americans into fantasy and science fiction by giving them a half-done, half-baked character instead of a strong, masculine character who can show leadership skills. And that's all because they didn't want to alienate a fan base of racists who didn't want to see a strong, masculine black man. It was just sad to see that, you know, done on this scale like that. But that's the main reason why I make every effort to write stories like The Temptation of John Haynes and John Haynes, The Man Who Rules the World, because I want black readers to feel like there is a place for them in science fiction and fantasy. There are stories with them in science fiction and fantasy, and that they can be a part of an imaginary world of science fiction and fantasy, and that there are characters out there that have their experiences, their adventures, their stories, and that there's a universe of characters that look like them and have their experiences. The Temptation of John Haynes is currently available on Amazon.com and on ebook form, and both in paperback and Kindle. And it's also um, going to be available on Smashwords again because. And John Haynes, The Man Who Rules the World, will also be available this spring or this summer, depending on how my Kickstarter goes. But both books will be available by this summer in paperback and in Kindle. And I also publish the Isis series, which features the Goddess Next Door, and the Eastine series, which features the Devilish Diva. And all those books are available on Amazon.com in paperback and in Kindle. And if you really want to see a strong, masculine, positive black man, pick up The Temptation of John Haynes and the upcoming John Haynes, The Man Who Rules the World.